meditation is supposed to be fun. It's not something you do as a grim duty. The trouble with religion as we know it is that it is so mixed up with grim duties. We do it because it's good for you. It's a kind of self-punishment. Well, meditation, when correctly done, has nothing to do with all that. It's a kind of digging the present. It's a kind of grooving with the eternal now. And brings us into a state of peace where we can understand that the point of life, the place where it's at, is simply here and now.
This moment is the creation of the universe. It's starting now. If you look back and wonder whether there was a big bang a long time ago, all you'll see is vanishing traces. The big bang is happening now. This is when the world begins. You're doing it. Only you're not doing it by straining. A you deeper than the straining you is doing all this. The same you that is growing your hair and coloring your eyes and making your thumbprints and all that. You don't think about it. You don't strain muscles to do it. But that is what is creating the world. Here it comes. Now. So instead of thinking that the past is the reality which explains everything that happens now, let's look at now.
On the Fringe with Dan RadioStyle. Hope everybody out there's having themselves an incredible day. Again, it's just my favorite series of stuff. The Law of One is something that is very special to me, precious to me. Some of you may be sharing that with me as well. Some of you maybe not getting it. Who knows? It is a fun way to kind of look at things, though, and I think it's done a very good job, and it's, I think, held up to the time very well as also. Today's episode, like it or not, it's going to be short. Both the sessions are reasonably short. Carla was having fatigue. I personally think this is a moment where, I think Don, is the one that does most of the question asking, but I believe he was out of energy. His energy was out of sync. And one of the things that many don't appreciate or truly understand about this group, Carla, Don, and was it Jim, the other one? I forgot the other one's name, sorry. But the three of these people, they had this really tight relationship. And their energy made this possible, right? So if Carla was maybe down energetically, the other two would kind of help bring that, and vice versa. But when any one leg of this stool got weird, it tended to cause problems for the whole stool. And that is one of the things I think that happens for the past 3-4 sessions, counting today as well. So today we're going to talk about very little, and this will probably, like I said, be a short show. But many people here today are part of this raw group. I frequently talk about how I'm a teacher of teachers. I think that's actually one of the things that's kind of happening right now. And I think there's a bunch of you guys out there that are vibing with this in a way that you're like, I don't know. I don't know about it, or oh my God, this really hits home, or whatever the case is. But there is this sort of inkling like, there's something to this. And I think there is a level of beauty to the Law of One information. Now, again, a lot of people, some try to come at it from a religious standpoint, and I don't really think that's where this is at. There's discussions around Yahweh. It was very minor and brief, but there are some discussions about how the Yahweh message was, Orion got involved, they would say. So there's a lot of things that I think we need to open up our discernment. We need to accept. I just did a recent video. I still haven't uploaded it. I asked if it was okay, and I still haven't done it yet. I need to. But the belief video, it's on my Dan RadioStyle channel. YouTube, go to Dan RadioStyle and you'll see the most recent video I did. It's about beliefs and how I think beliefs are one of the things that we really need to, like every single belief, every single one of them, need to step away from it and rebuild it. Rebuild it knowing what you know now. Rebuild it. And I spent some time talking about, at least the example I used was my relationship with God and how I was very religious at a time, very involved with the church and all of that. And I stepped back from God and I said, God, show me back to you. And some of this I was reading, I think Neil Donald Walsh at the time, Conversations with God, Communion with God, Friendship with God, like a lot of books that that were just helping me tremendously at the time and helping me create a relationship with this person, being, this energy, this voice in my head, I don't know, with God. And I found the path to be powerful, and it's led me to all sorts of different things. And I think it's something we should all do, because it's more important what your experience is with reality than what other people tell you your experience should be with reality. And so many of us believe what we're told or try to bend our understanding or our experience into what other people are telling us is what we should experience, right? So we'll have an experience. It's not quite what everyone says we should have, but we'll try to bend it to fit. And it's many of these things that I think makes it difficult on this path. Again, part of being here, though. So this first one is many raw people are here now. And left-right disturbances, there are, no matter what path you're on, service to self, service to other, you are going to have catalysts. You are going to have difficulties. You are going to have struggles. You're going to have successes. It's the same. It's the same experience. We're all here experiencing the same thing, a catalyst, something that rubs us the wrong way often enough to cause us to do what we need to do, and something that benefits us often enough to where we're like, oh, that's what I should be doing. Again, I frequently talk about paying attention to what's happening to you, and you'll get a better understanding as to whether or not you're heading in the direction you'd like to go. I do think there's some pretty awesome parallels on this. So we are going to fire this one off. Again, this is very short. I want to say it's like 5-6 minutes only. And then I think the second one's only 12 minutes. Normally they're about 20. So these were 2 shorter sessions. And what I also want to point out, and I think it's extraordinarily important, is the dark wants to stop any of us that starts to shine brightly. Also, one of the reasons I don't ever come out and talk about who I am, what I am, any of those kinds of things, not that I'm anything special, is because the second you do, you open yourself up. It's one of the joys of how I've come into this being, and I've hinted at it before, but I won't spend a lot of time talking about it. And it's not a public thing per se. It's something that maybe a few of you guys will hear me say privately, but I'll never say it publicly. I'll never talk about it publicly. Never. Because it's who I am is who I am. It's very personal to me. And it should be to each of you, personal to you. You, personal to you. Know thyself. People are going to have opinions. People are going to think you should do certain things. But it's not their path, is it? And again, all of these things are part of that catalyst. Understanding the life that we're living is a challenge. But when it starts to make sense to you, when it finally starts to dawn on you, you're like, oh my God, okay. Your entire life changes. Your entire world changes. Law of One was a big part of that evolution for me. And it's certainly being a part of this learned teaching right now. It's helping me understand it even further. In densities, like I said at the beginning of this and still saying, understanding the densities better was a big, big, big part of why I wanted to learn this. I want to understand the densities better. I want to understand that. And I really do feel like that's coming. The evolution of the densities through the chakras, understanding that each chakra 1 is basically first density. Chakra 2 is basically second density. On up through 7th chakra. And so when you start to understand that, and then when you can start to understand what the chakras represent, and they certainly talk about it here, and they talk about the densities, you start to actually understand how you can evolve yourself. And that, I think, is the key in the big picture. So again, many Ra, left and right paths are both important. And left and right, left hand, right hand, left eye of Horus, right eye of Horus, also service to self, service to others. Kind of this concept of duality, this concept of there's this darker path and there's this lighter path. Well, force, for that matter, the dark side and the light side. There's been many examples given to us. Again, I think this is one of many, and a great channel and great extra info that kind of came through. Stuff that we didn't necessarily know, maybe about our universe or solar system or things along those lines. So here is session 45, again recorded, I want to say 1981. Again, we're almost halfway through the entire Law of One series. We're very close. I think there's 106 total sessions. So very close to the halfway mark. And again, they're having some struggles. Orion group is definitely messing with them and will mess with you guys the second you decide to turn on your light even brighter. The Orion group sees that as a beacon. It's not something to fear. It's something to understand. It's something to appreciate. And it's something to realize all they can do is try to influence, try to put thoughts into your mind. That's all they can do. It's your decision what you focus your attention and energy on. We've talked about this a lot. Again, it's the most important thing. All said. Sorry, long-winded. Session 45, Law of One on the Fringe. The Law of One, Session 45, recorded April 6, 1981. Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one Creator. We communicate now. Questioner, could you give us an estimate of the instrument's physical condition for communications now that she is rested? Ra, I am Ra. This instrument's condition as regards to bodily complex is extremely poor. This instrument is not rested. However, this instrument was eager for our contact. Questioner, did the period of abstinence from contact help the instrument's physical condition? Ra, I am Ra. This is correct. The probability of this instrument's development of what you would call disease, either of the pulmonary nature or the renal nature, was quite significant at our previous contact. You have averted a possible serious physical malfunction of this instrument's bodily complex. It is to be noted that your prayerful support was helpful, as was the instrument's unflagging determination to accept that which was best in the long run, and thus maintain the exercises recommended without undue impatience. It is to be further noted that those things which aid this instrument are in some ways contradictory and require balance. Thus, this instrument is aided by rest, but also by diversion from an active nature. This makes it more difficult to aid this instrument. However, once this is known, the balancing may be more easily accomplished. Questioner, can you tell me if a large percentage of the wanderers here now are those of Ra? Ra, I am Ra. I can. Questioner, are they? Ra, I am Ra. A significant portion of sixth density wanderers are those of our social memory complex. Another large portion consists of those who aided those in South America. Another portion, those aiding Atlantis. All sixth density and all brother and sister groups, due to the unified feeling that as we had been aided by shapes such as the pyramid, so we could aid your peoples. Questioner, can you say if any of the three of us are of Ra or one of the other groups? Ra, I am Ra. Yes. Questioner, can you say which of us of which group? Ra, I am Ra. No. Questioner, are all of us of one of the groups that you mentioned? Ra, I am Ra. We should go to the limits of our attempts to refrain from infringement. 2 are a sixth density origin, water, truck, engine, noise, and background. 1, a fifth density harvestable to sixth, but choosing to, truck honks, return as a wanderer due to a loving association between teacher and student. Thus, you 3, honk honk, form a greatly cohesive group. Questioner, can you explain the right and left ear tone and what I call touch contact that I continually get? Ra, I am Ra. Doorbell in the background. This has been covered previously. Please ask for specific further details. Truck engine turned off. Questioner. I get what I consider to be a trickling in my right ear and my left ear at different times. Is this any different as far as meaning goes as the tone I get in my left and right ear? Ra. I am Ra. No. Questioner. Why is the left ear of service to self-contact and the right service to others? Ra. I am Ra. The nature of your physical vehicle is that there is a magnetic field, positive and negative, in complex patterns about the shells of your vehicle. The left portion of the head region is most entities is, upon the time-space continuum level, of a negative polarity. Questioner. Can you tell me the purpose or philosophy behind the fourth, fifth, and sixth density positive, bang, outside, and negative social memory complexes, loud rapping at the door? Ra. I am Ra, bang, outside. The basic purpose, loud rapping, of a social memory complex is that of evolution. Beyond a certain point, the evolution of spirit is quite dependent upon the understanding of self and other self as creator. This constitutes the basis for social complexes. When brought to maturity, they become social memory complexes. The fourth density and sixth density find these quite necessary. The fifth positive uses social memory, more rapping, in attaining wisdom, though this is done individually. In fifth negative, much is done without aid of others. This is doorbell in the background. The last query at this instrument needs to be doorbell in the background, protected from depletion. Are there brief queries before doorbell in the background? We close. Questioner. I just need to know if there's anything we can do to make the instrument more comfortable or improve the contact. Ra. I am Ra. Loud rapping. All is well, my brothers. Voice from outside. Waterman. Questioner. What did you say? I couldn't hear you. Ra. I am Ra. Doorbell on the background. All is well, my brothers. I leave you now in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. Go forth then, rejoicing, truck engine started, in the power and the peace of the one infinite creator, honking Adonai. They were obviously having problems, weren't they? On the Fringe. Session 45, Law of One. They were out of sync as a group, which creates a general vibe that keeps out a lot of the issues. Great example of issues that we might experience are like when we get sick, right? It's because we've overworked, we've let our energy down, any number of things, right? But generally, that's how the sick gets in. Otherwise, you're doing everything to keep yourself healthy. We know we are. So it gets confusing, it gets frustrating. But ultimately, it's when we know that we've fallen out of line with our own selves, when we've stopped paying attention. And much as Carla's health has been a concern, and they bring up how it could have been much, much worse. They were talking about renal failure and some other issues. Carla did actually, they stopped doing as many sessions is essentially what happened, and they slowed their pace down a little bit and gave her a chance to try to work on essentially what's called psychic attack. Them going public with this information caused them to undergo psychic attack. Now, the psychic attack is actually almost harder and worse these days because of the digital world, and you put yourself out there and people will attack you as an individual. So you get psychic attack from people that never would have known of you back in the day when it was just an issue of whether they found your book or not, right? So it was a little harder to get hated on as much. Internet world, that has become significantly easier. Now, one thing they do that's kind of funny in this, I thought, is the whole idea of like, can I ask you a question? You'd be like, other than the question you just asked me, because you just asked me a question. Asking permission to ask me a question in the form of a question is kind of silly, right? I get the appropriateness of what someone's trying to do when they're like, can I ask you a question? Like, I want permission to ask you something other than I want to be able to ask you if it's okay to ask you. And that is kind of Ra's sort of answer in some of their stuff. It's like, can you tell us about something? And he's like, yeah. And he's like, will you? And he's like, oh, well, sure. It's like, just ask. You don't need to be so strange about it. Ra would be. Want to also say that law of confusion is much like the concept of free will. You have the free will to believe whatever you want to believe. I want to tie this into something a little weird, but it's a little woo, but it's kind of appropriate for where we're at these days especially. But the idea of UFOs, or whatever we're calling them now, right? I don't give a crap what they are, but everybody knows what a UFO is. When you say that, right? I don't know, EVE, I think that's the biological equipment, right? Whatever. Like, what's the unidentified? I don't even know anymore. They got so many stupid names. The concept of disclosure is not something that the government's supposed to do. It's not something that's supposed to be told to us. It's not something that's supposed to be governed outside of us. It's something that's governed by you and me. You and me specifically. It's governed by us. When there's enough of us, you and me's and your other yous, like when there's enough of us that believe or understand or think that there is something else, there's UFOs, there's technology, whatever, that 100th monkey syndrome will kick in. And when it does, everybody, even with their free will come on board, because kind of that 100th monkey syndrome has happened. And if you don't know what the 100th monkey is, look it up. It's a good reference. It's fun. It's a good discussion. So to a large extent, disclosure is up to us. And there's so many people that are waiting or projecting it outward from them. The government needs to do it. Trump's not talking about it yet, but he's going to. Like there's this whole set of discussions. But it's not up to anybody outside of you and me. That's the truth of it. When enough of us realize what's up, the 100th monkey syndrome will kick in, and everybody will accept it. And that's disclosure. It will be disclosed. It will be accepted as true. Now, there's a lot of discussion happening right now, so if you're paying attention, it's in the transition phase. But us, locking that in, if you will, is going to be key to that. Distractions, again, energy out of sync. Just understand that. When things happen that are especially out of the blue, understand there's something to it. It's meant to kind of help you understand something. Okay, it's not always just black and white. It's not always super simple. Sometimes it's a little maybe complex. Know thyself, learn thyself, understand thyself. But when life happens, you need to adapt. You need to appreciate the gifts that have been given in the present moment where gifts are given. You need to appreciate what's being presented to you. And when you do, and learn sometimes that, I'm a little off base. And you can accept that because your life's showing it to you. So it's a mirror. It's hard to argue the mirror. That's not you, F you in the mirror. You, ooh. It's like watching a dog like growl and move at a mirror. It's funny as hell, right? It's like he doesn't even realize that thing's going to move at him at the exact same speed every single time. And it trips the dog out. He's like, it's like he knows what I'm doing, like what I'm thinking. And so that's what we're seeing in real life. And when we figure it out, my God, it's beautiful. Left path, service to self. Right path, service to others. Left ear ringing, which is weird because they say it's the right brain that affects it. So I don't know, whatever the case is. But it was this. So my left side's the one that's like weird. The right side's like dead. So I don't know what's going on with me. But whatever the case is, right? The ear thing is funny too because I get the ringing in only one ear, but I've also got damage in that ear, which could be tied into all this stuff as well. Left ear, though, every once in a while, I'll feel pressure differences, weird noises will pop in. So there's some stuff to this that's like, all right, I'm paying attention to it. And I realize that when it's happening the way it's happening, there's something to it. There's some meaning to it. Like there's meaning to the things that happen in our lives. I think that's kind of a cool thing. All right, so that's pretty much all the notes I had as I drag this out as long as possible. I think I've got one question so far. Patriots Daryl. Is all the noise outside the Orion group or just random noises? So it's that's good. I'm glad you brought it up because I didn't really cover it the way I wanted to. The noises outside were a combination of things. They were, one, the fact that they were out of sync as a group, so it allowed all these crazy noises to occur. You'd be surprised how many things happen to us or for us without us necessarily realizing it. Like the concept of if a tree falls in the woods and there's no one there to hear it, does it make a noise? If there's nothing or nobody to witness it, if there's literally no species or animal whatsoever, I contend, and I would still suggest is possibly true, that no, it doesn't make a noise. In fact, it probably doesn't even fall. It ends up from A to B, and then when someone happens upon it, it's now different, right? So you don't necessarily see it or hear it. So I think a lot of it was their energetics being out, and then on top of that, yes, the Orion group was attacking. But again, when you've got your energy right, the Orion group can't hurt you. It can't mess with you. I've had some issues recently where they've gotten me, and I do have an experience, a very weird experience of something that's evil that messes with me from time to time. And again, it just messes with me. It'll freak me out, too. It'll raise the hair on the back of my neck. It's really kind of weird when it happens. But for the most part, it can't do anything. So understanding that we're going to have all sorts of crazy thoughts when you start to lighten up, when you start to turn that light on brighter, when you turn that dim switch up, you are going to be shocked at some of the stuff that's going to start to pop up in your life. Almost like something's trying to stop you. And that is big time kind of how that works. Rewalt77 is also asking, does the left-right thing affect if you're left-handed or right-handed? I don't think so. I think that's actually a whole different level of things. Just because left-handed people tend to live in this world where nothing's made for you. So you've got this weird experience like catalyst that exists just constantly in your world. So I think it has more to do with that when you're left-handed, right-handed than so much the left eye of Horus versus right eye of Horus or left path, right path. I don't think that's necessarily tied in. No, I don't. It doesn't feel like it's me, Ruwalt. But yeah, that's a great question, though. Fantastic question. All right, we're gonna hop into this next one. This is session 46, again recorded 81. I'm curious how many days exactly after. We'll see when we get there. But yes, this is kind of the catalyst is needed for both paths. This is one of the key questions that came out of this session. Though again, a shortened session, but catalyst is needed. They kind of say work is a necessary part of living. Like you can't just have a simple life. Like AI couldn't just replace everything and then we'd all just sit around and just be like, and evolve, because you can't. You have to have a catalyst. You have to have something that kind of to rub against, something that causes a friction, something that causes a speeding up, or else it never happens. You've never learned any valuable lessons from positive things, ever. Ever. Maybe a baby being born or something, but there's no lesson in that. Lessons are always in the painful moments, the things that hurt. And you learn, you don't do it again. It stings, it bites, ow, yee. That is how life works. It just does. Like it, don't like it, doesn't matter. It's how it is. The second we accept it and figure out, okay, so these are the rules, this is the way the game's played, you'll be amazed how much easier this game is to play. It's pretty standard. There's rules. It's honestly very basic. It's like, 10, 15 things. You figure it out and you're like, oh, okay. This gets much easier. So we've got catalyst. It's important for the service of self and service to others. Here's session 46 on the Fringe. And this, of course, is Law of One for those that are not playing along at home. The Law of One, session 46, recorded April 15th, 1981. Ra, I am Ra. I greet you in the love and in the light of the one infinite creator. We communicate now. Questioner, could we please first have an indication of the instrument's condition? Ra, I am Ra. This instrument scans at present at extremely low physical energy and is under attack. This will continue for some of your weeks. However, the vital energy of this instrument is gradually restoring its former level. Questioner, in that case, we'd better ask you only one question, unless you deem it all right to ask any more questions than that. But the one question that is bothering us, which I got in meditation, may be an inappropriate question, but I feel it my duty to ask it because it is central to the instrument's mental condition and ours. It has to do with the 2 cats which we were going to take to have worked upon today for teeth cleaning and the small growth removed from Gandalf's leg. I got the impression that there might be an inroad there for the Orion group, and I was primarily concerned about anything that we could do for protection for these 2 cats. I may be out of line in asking this, but I feel it is my duty to ask it. Would you please give me information, all the information you can, on that subject? Ra, I am Ra. The entity, mind-body-spirit complex, Gandalf, being harvestable 3rd density, is open to the same type of psychic attack to which you yourselves are vulnerable. Therefore, through the mechanism of images and dreams, it is potentially possible for negative concepts to be offered to this mind-body-spirit complex, thus having possible deleterious results. The entity, Fairchild, though harvestable through investment, does not have the vulnerability to attack in as great an amount due to the lack of the mind complex activity and the distortion of conscious devotion. For protection of these entities, we might indicate 2 possibilities. Firstly, the meditation putting an armor of light. Secondly, the repetition of short ritual sentences known to this instrument from the establishment which distorts spiritual openness for this instrument. This instrument's knowledge will suffice. This will aid due to the alerting of many discarnate entities also aware of these ritual sentences. The meditation is appropriate at this time of the activity on behalf of these entities. The ritual may be repeated with efficacy from this time until the safe return at convenient intervals. Questioner, I'm not familiar with the ritual sentences. If the instrument is familiar, you need not answer this, but which sentences do you mean? Ra. Silence. No response from Ra. Questioner, I assume the instrument is familiar? Ra. I am Ra. This is correct. Questioner, can you tell me something of the little growth on Gandalf's leg? What caused it, and if it is a danger to him? Ra. I am Ra. The cause of such growths has been previously discussed. The danger to the physical body complex is slight given the lack of repeated stimulus to anger. Questioner, at this time, I would ask if we should end the session because of the instrument's low vitality, or whether this is irrelevant because of the dedication to this session already. Ra. I am Ra. The latter is correct. You may proceed. We shall monitor the vital energy of this instrument. Questioner, I was just wondering, if an entity polarizes towards the service to self path, would the anger have the same physical effect that it attacks an entity polarized towards the service to others path? Would it also cause cancer, or is it just a catalytic effect working in the positively polarized entity? Ra. I am Ra. The catalytic mechanism are dependent, not upon the chosen polarity of a mind-body-spirit complex, but upon the use or purpose to which this catalyst is put. Thus, the entity which used the experience of anger to polarize consciously positively or negatively does not experience the bodily catalyst, but rather uses the catalyst in mental configuration. Questioner, not sure that I understand that. Let's take some examples. If an entity polarizing towards the negative path becomes angry, let's take the condition where he develops a cancer. What is the principle of that for him? Ra. I am Ra. We see the thrust of your query and will respond at variances with the specific query if that meets with your approval. Questioner. Certainly. Ra. The entity polarizing positively perceives the anger. This entity, if using this catalyst mentally, blesses and loves this anger in itself. It then intensifies this anger consciously in mind alone until the folly of this red ray energy is perceived not as folly in itself, but as energy subject to spiritual entropy due to the randomness of the energy being used. Positive orientation then provides the will and faith to continue this mentally intense experience of letting the anger be understood accepted, and integrated with the mind-body-spirit complex. The other self, which is the object of anger, is thus transformed into an object of acceptance, understanding, and accommodation, all being reintegrated using the great energy which anger began. The negatively oriented mind-body-spirit complex will use this anger in a similarly conscious fashion, refusing to accept the undirected or random energy of anger and instead, through will and faith, funneling this energy into a practical means of venting the negative aspects of this emotion so as to obtain control over other self or otherwise control the situation causing anger. Control is the key to negatively polarized use of catalyst. Acceptance is the key to positively polarized use of catalyst. Between these polarities lies the potential for this random and undirected energy, creating a bodily complex analog of what you call the cancerous growth of tissue. Questioner: then as I understand it, you are saying that if the positively polarizing entity fails to accept the other self, or if the negatively polarizing entity fails to control the other self, either of these conditions will cause cancer, possibly. Is this correct? Ra: I am Ra. This is partially correct. The first, acceptance, or controlling, depending upon polarity, is of the self. Anger is one of the many things to be accepted and loved as a part of self, or controlled as a part of self, if the entity is to do work. Questioner: then are you saying that if a negatively polarized or polarizing entity is unable to control his own anger, or unable to control himself in anger, that he may cause cancer? Is this correct? Ra: I am Ra. This is quite correct. The negative polarization contains a great requirement for control and repression. Questioner: a repression of what? Ra: I am Ra. Any mind complex distortion, which you may call emotional, which is of itself disorganized, needs, in order to be useful to the negatively oriented entity, to be repressed and then brought to the surface in an organized use. Thus, you may find, for instance, negatively polarized entities controlling and repressing such basic bodily complex needs as the sexual desire, in order that, in the practice thereof, the will may be used to enforce itself upon the other self with greater efficiency when the sexual behavior is allowed. Questioner: then the positively oriented entity, rather than attempting repression of emotion, would balance the emotion as stated in an earlier contact. Is this correct? Ra: I am Ra. This is correct and illustrates the path of unity. Questioner: then cancer is a training catalyst operating for both polarities in approximately the same way, but attempting, let's say, to create polarization in both directions, positive and negative, depending upon the orientation of the entity experiencing the catalyst. Is this correct? Ra: I am Ra. This is incorrect, in that the catalyst is unconscious and does not work with intelligence, but rather is part of the, shall we say, mechanism of learned teaching set up by the sub-logos before the beginning of your space-time. Questioner: how does cancer do this learned teaching when the entity has no conscious idea of what is happening to him when he develops cancer? Ra: I am Ra. In many cases, catalyst is not used. Questioner: what is the plan for the use of the catalyst of cancer? Ra: I am Ra. The catalyst, and all catalysts, is designed to offer experience. This experience in your density may be loved and accepted, or it may be controlled. These are the two paths. When neither path is chosen, the catalyst fails in its design, and the entity proceeds until catalyst strikes it, which causes it to form a bias towards acceptance of love or separation and control. There is no lack of space-time in which this catalyst may work. Questioner: I am assuming that the sub-logos, or the logos plan, is for the positively and negatively polarized social memory complexes in fourth density and above. Can you tell me the purpose of the plan for these two types of social memory complexes with respect, shall we say, to Coulomb's law, or negative and positive electrical polarity, or any way you can? Ra: I am Ra. This instrument grows weary. We shall speak with you again. We may indicate the possibility, without further harm to this instrument, of approximately 2 sessions per your weekly period until these weeks of potential for attack and presence of very low physical energies are past. May we say, it was good to be with this group. We appreciate your fidelity. Are there any brief queries before the end of this work time? Questioner, only if there is anything we can do to make this instrument more comfortable or improve the contact. Ra, I am Ra. Each is supporting the instrument well, and the instrument remains steady in its purpose. You are conscientious. All is well. We ward you ware of any laxity regarding the arrangement and orientation of appurtenances. I am Ra. I leave you, my friends, in the love and in the light of the one infinite Creator. Go forth, therefore, rejoicing in the power and the peace of the one infinite Creator. Adonai. I had the hardest time with this line. We ward you ware of any laxity regarding the arrangement of orientation and appurtenances. Oh my God. I had to say that like 4 times. It was brutal. All said. On the Fringe. Law of One. Some great questions, by the way, we've got coming up in chat, and I'll do my best to answer those for you. Only a couple notes that I really popped out of this. One cat was more devoted than the other. So they're both actually going to make it to 3rd density, was one of the things they were pointing out, which is pretty cool. One of them's definitely way further along in the path than the other. So the graduation of one is like a lot better. And again, it comes down to, and with pets, many of you guys have pets and you love them. They got little souls. They do. They absolutely do. And when you help them understand that they're separate from other stuff, when they acknowledge that, when they miss you when they're gone and when you're gone and all that, right? Like that type of stuff helps bestow upon them that difference. I am different than them. For a dog, maybe a cat, whatever, and dogs are certainly pack animals, cats are a little different, but they have the way they find separation with the use of us as humans is amazing. So domesticated animals are, in most cases, beings that are going to be evolving to 3rd density because of you. You actually made that possible. So that's pretty cool. They had 2 cats, and they're different levels of evolution. Both pretty evolved, though, so kind of cool. Gandalf, I don't know what the deal is. Whatever. I'm not going to... Whatever. That's why I think he was off the rails a little. I'm like, you're worried about your cat. And I get it. And then other people, some guy was asking me about this thing since I've got the microphone of the future. So again, humans are funny when we realize we're talking to something supernatural is what we call it, even though it's not true really. But when we call it something supernatural, or Ra in this case, and that was one of the questions, we'll get there. We treat it differently. And that's one of the problems that Ra faced was... Historically, in the past, every time Ra tried to do anything or demonstrate anything or do any sort of teaching or teach learning of the Law of One, that ultimately they were deified. People turned them into gods. People made them into something they weren't. And we, on this planet, because of the dark forces, because of the Orion influence, if you will, and again, same thing, but because of the dark forces, we do have a tendency to have a very hard time holding on to truth. The dark banishes it quickly. It's able to, in often cases, move it from the mind or at least make it hard to find again the thought, the memory, the fleeting glimpse. So it is important to understand that taking each moment as it comes, and this is part of the ascension, is living in the now. And so this is part of, it's intentional the way things are happening. But at the same time, it's a little weird. So as we're moving into this living in the now moments, we need to pay attention to what's happening to ourselves right now. What's being used against us right now. And how is it operating? This actually kind of answers sort of one of the questions, but we'll talk about it more. But how do you know when the Orion group is influencing you? They're going to do it through ego, typically. Typically, it's ego. somehow you're unique. You need to bring this forth to mankind. You are this person that nobody else can be. Like any sort of things that goes along those lines, that you are somehow special, is usually the Orion group. Because, well, it's always the Orion group. Positive entities are going to come more from the way I try to push, frankly. But they're going to come more at it like, look where we're going. Look at the stuff that you're doing. Look how great you've accomplished. Look at all the, like, it's focused on the moving in the direction that you're going, not pointing out things or judging things or getting weird emotion about things. So ego is certainly a big part of them. Another way they're going to work at you is through anger, fear, and stuff like that. This is how they are very able to manipulate. Now, when people are fully plugged in and programmed still, like the Matrix, that fear programming, that programming works very well, extraordinarily well. You can't snap them out of it. You can't. You can try all damn day long. I dare you. I've been doing it for 30 plus years. And you can't freaking snap anyone out of anything. They get there when they get there. Sometimes you'll be involved in those final moments of, when they start waking up. But yeah, I've seen people take credit for it too. Oh, that was me. I woke them up. No, you didn't. They just happened to be in front of you when they woke up. And thank God they were, because you helped them. But again, ego. That's when Orion's involved. You start to feel like somehow you're special. No, we're all the same, dude. We're all the same. Every one of us. None of us are any different or better than any of us. That's the thing. Don't let anything tell you differently either. These things you too can do. I mean, a lot of some of the cool quotes of Jesus that were lost were beautiful, and it was stuff along those lines. So, again, they try to control you through these paths, and that is one of the things that we've got to be mindful of. All right, let's see if... So September, I hope that kind of answered your question. How Orion Group messes with us. They're going to do it through fear. They're going to do it through the controlling programming, anything that makes you feel locked down. So bills and stuff like that, all the thoughts of bills, like anything that makes you feel trapped, anything that makes you feel better than anyone else, like ego type stuff, like your unique skill sets. Nobody else could do this at this time of life. That type of stuff is the Orion Group trying to snuggle their way in. Now, just because they're using that doesn't mean you somehow, I'm under control of that. No, it's just whether you listen to that thought in your head and give it any weight. The people that give it weight, when it's one of the Orion thoughts, they start going down the service to self path. They just do. There's a lot of content creators that do it right now. It's just how this game's played. I think it's one of the things that we all need to be mindful of. So yeah, the Orion's going to mess with us in those ways. Anything that's more about unity, it's about we're all great, we're all grand, we're moving in this awesome new golden age, we're moving this great new direction, everything's kind of like, and I don't mean kumbaya per se, because I'm sure there's people that are going to be like, well, what about this? What about that? I mean, whatever. You're going to have to figure it out for yourself to a degree, but it's that, what is more limiting? Service to self. What separates myself from others? Service to self. Versus what makes me part of everybody else or helps uplift everybody else? Service to others. It's really only two ways to come at it. Ultimately, you've got to try to discern that. It will deceive you. It's very deceiving. The devil deceived Jesus 3 times in the desert, right? Like, it's deceiving. It's meant to be. It's a catalyst. You must learn. It's important. Don't feel bad if you freak out and mess up sometimes. You're going to. It's okay. It's not the end of the world. Unless you go out and kill somebody, then it's like you've really gone off the deep end, Yeah, maybe this life. Maybe this is where cancer needs to come into play, right? And get that out of the way. Let's see, Eduardo, who's the Orion Group? So the Orion Group is, They say it's a group of beings that come from the belt of Orion, one of the stars in the three belt. I don't know which one. I don't know all that. And again, I don't try to get lost into those types of details too terribly much. The Orion group represents the evil group. The reptilians fall into the Orion group. The Greys would typically, at least the typical groups. There are some others that might fall into that. Individuals that are of all the other groups that maybe are influenced by the Orion groups. Again, there's no like one race is all good. Like there's actually some good Greys, there's actually some good reptilians, but most of them suck. But there are mostly good Pleiadians, but there's some that are problems, right? There's like it's just the way it works, right? It's the way it is. It's like humans, right? Some of us are awesome, some of us suck, so that plays a part. So, yeah, the Orion group kind of ties into that whole kind of concept of evil, right? The fallen angels, I think, would fall into that when it comes to some of the stuff that we've talked about, though I think that has a lot more to do with kind of localized events versus the whole galaxy, if you will. I think a lot of the fallen angels really come into, like in Hebrew, at least when some of the original texts and translated by Mauro Biglino, who I actually have huge respect for his, like I think his record proves itself, and his knowledge of Greek and Hebrew. But there's just some very key things that suggest that that Yahweh was a specific Elohim. He was one of the Elohim. He was an El or a group, even some suggest, and that even makes sense. But these individuals or groups or gods had unique powers. And so again, there's been a bit of a back and forth on that, the translations, how they've been changed, how influence has happened from Orion. So there's a lot of very interesting things that many of us, through the law of confusion / free will, are going to have to, come to terms with in our own way, shape, or form. Maggie asked, who is Ra? Ra is it's a group of people. It would be, I would say, the equivalent of saying, like if you're talking to mankind, right? Like if you're somehow channeling mankind most likely is going to have one voice back at you, and it's going to be a collective of the mankind, sort of speaking for mankind on behalf of mankind at that moment. So Ra is essentially that. It's a collective consciousness group that has evolved past where we right now are experiencing and have tried to help humanity in the past. Pyramids are tied into them. Obviously, the god Ra from Egypt was also tied into them. They've been involved here a few times, and it just didn't go well. So they kind of got some karma attached to them, and they wanted to fix this. So there's a lot of us. I think we tie back to Atlantis too, by the way, just to get into some more crazy. But I think a lot of us came here at this time to try to help with this specifically hands-on because of the difficulties that we've had in the past, and trying to hopefully get people on the same page. Eduardo says, Ra, god of the sun. That's sort of a misunderstanding of the Egyptian god of Ra. But yeah, basically, again, Ra was misunderstood. This is the group that was named after, though, in our past. They've been involved in our past a few times, and once in physical form. And that's where a lot of the Egypt stuff comes to play. Glad7 says, who is the guy at the beginning of the videos? That's Alan Watts. If you guys aren't familiar, he's an amazing philosopher. Love Alan Watts. I've read a few of his books, and yeah, he's got all sorts of little nuggets out there that'll you're just like, oh my God, that's brilliant. The dude's a rock star. So Alan Watts, yeah, hugely recommend him. He's him and Neville Goddard for like manifestation. Like the British, man, they seem to get it in that regard. You'll never know when they're mad, never know when they're angry. But yeah, they got some pretty powerful people up there. Let's see, Maggie, or is there a supreme God over all other gods? So there is one God. There's source, is what I like to call it. There's sub-logos from there. And honestly, that's where I put Yahweh. Yahweh is not the original source. Yahweh is the creator of this area, this solar system. And he used sources abilities to do this, and that was, they're pretty high up the food chain. And then there's sub-logos below that, sub-logos below that. And so there's levels to how evolution works within an environment. Again, if you want to think of it as a video game, think of it as like, the programming, or if you want to think about it from other standpoints, like I don't know where we go when we're not in physical form. Like I don't know where that is. I really don't. I've had a number of places where I've seen it, and every time it's like it's another room, like just down the hall. There's a doorway. I open it up. I go inside. I got a couple friends. It's almost like we're sitting there with headsets on, basically, every time I've seen it. And we kind of jack in, and you're in the realm while you're there. You know what I mean? So where do we go when we sleep? I mean, there's a lot of questions I have as far as the big picture, but it's, I hopefully, is there other God? There is one God source. Has that been confused or even localized for this solar system? Yes, it has been. So, again, not trying to minimize anything, but best answer I can give. Let's see. Crans Metal 76 question. Sometimes when I meditate, I sway from side to side. Why does it happen? Depends how you're feeling with it. But I've felt that from a rhythmic standpoint, there's times where you'll kind of almost get into like Schumann, like you'll almost get into like the sync of the frequency. Like you'll almost get into that little tick-tock thing. I don't know what that's called in music. That's not a bad thing per se. Now, if you're having it and you're finding it to be distracting, then I would say that's something different. But I don't think that, doesn't feel like that's what you're talking about. Maybe I'm wrong there. But to me, it feels like you're getting into a rhythm. And if it's cool and comfortable and groovy, run with it, man. Run with it. That's just going to be one of the ways you feel things. And it's probably part of your extra sensory perception abilities that you should definitely think about. Like, I seem to pick up on rhythms. I seem to pick up on that flow of what's happening, that normal rhythm. And when it gets out of whack, like you might be like the one, like when there's going to be an earthquake, you'd be like, oh, something doesn't feel right. Like, you know what I mean? Like, so you being, I would actually say pursue that. That might be your superpower, if you will. You know what I mean? Because sometimes you'll have a sense that really just jumps out. It's very strong. It'll be stronger than others. And that's kind of the way, some people, like psychic type stuff, if you will, maybe you see things in your head, right? You have pictures in your head. That's kind of the sense that tends to work, your third eye, if you will. Some people hear, it's auditory. You'll hear words, thoughts, understandings, concepts. Some people you'll feel sensations. So again, there's different ways that you'll experience this, but you will experience it. And so pay attention to how, and understand that is your receiver, like at least your primary one, right? You're connected to base connect or ground control or whatever the shit, right? So that's kind of cool. Hey, I think I got all the questions. I caught up with you guys. Fantastic. And it still took like an hour. I'm shocked. Dan talks too much. There's a shocker. Stop the press. All said, I love you guys. I hope the Law of One's helping. You have questions, bring them next week. It's okay to talk about stuff from prior weeks, and it's also okay to ask questions about stuff maybe even coming up, though don't get too far ahead of us. But concepts are always good to bring up, because there are concepts that kind of seem to weave themselves in and out of our discussions week after week after week. And I think that's a big part of why I find this to be so important. I love you guys. I want to thank all you guys for being here. Sheila, Ruwalt, Eduardo, Glad, Maggie, Crans Metal. Who else am I missing? A-Score. My gosh, thank you very, very much for all your help. September, thank you. Pet, thank you, sir. There's so many. T. Jardine, I'm glad you made it. Didn't realize it. Thank you guys all for being here. I love it. I love you guys. We'll do it again next week. That'll be good. And we got a music show tomorrow. So if you guys want to hang out, same time, same bat channel. We're doing glam rock this week. So like kind of your 80s glam bands, basically. It's going to be fun. A lot of fun. I think many of you are going to enjoy the music. All of that is coming up. Closing out this session, though, session 46. Thank you guys for joining us, Law of One. We'll keep it up. We've still got, 6 weeks to go? We'll get there. Where we go one, we go all, though. That's for sure. But here's the Law of One on the Fringe.
Meditation is supposed to be fun. It's not something you do as a grim duty. The trouble with religion as we know it is that it is so mixed up with grim duties. We do it because it's good for you. It's a kind of self-punishment. Well, meditation, when correctly done, has nothing to do with all that. It's a kind of digging the present. It's a kind of grooving with the eternal now. And brings us into a state of peace where we can understand that the point of life, the place where it's at, is simply here and now.
This moment is the creation of the universe. It's starting now. If you look back and wonder whether there was a big bang a long time ago, all you'll see is vanishing traces. The big bang is happening now. This is when the world begins. You're doing it. Only you're not doing it by straining. A you deeper than the straining you is doing all this. The same you that is growing your hair and coloring your eyes and making your thumbprints and all that. You don't think about it. You don't strain muscles to do it. But that is what is creating the world. Here it comes. Now. So instead of thinking that the past is the reality which explains everything that happens now, let's look at now.